Yesterday we started section 7.4, which is trigonometry. Okay, you guys are doing great on the lesson yesterday. I'm going to do a couple things here just to kind of get us back in the wavelength of remembering those new things that was introduced to you yesterday. Your bell ringer this morning looks like this. You should have already tried it. It said on a piece of paper, set up the trig functions you would use to solve for x in this triangle. Okay, and I need to correct one thing that I said wrong. I believe I just said trig functions, but there's only one that you can use to solve for x. Okay, so we're going to set up the trig function that we're going to use in this situation. Okay, now in this picture here, your right angle is up here. That's very important to know. It's going to give you an angle measure. They'll give you another one of those angles every time. Okay? Remember, that angle is your position. That's where you're going to stand yourself at. So put a little dot there to represent, here I am. This is where my perspective that I'm looking from. Okay? First thing to do, if you can remember these little in-between steps, this section is going to seem easy. However, the section is not really easy in itself because there's a lot of little pieces that have to come together. So if you try to skip steps and you don't put the pieces in there, then you're going to think it's hard. But if you will follow along the process that I'm teaching you, and if you'll follow the little steps, a lot of you yesterday were getting to that point where you said, oh, this is just really easy. But that's because you're using all these little puzzle pieces and you're understanding how it does all work together. Okay? So never try to use the puzzle pieces and not put them together. Never try to just do this without writing it down. Always take the time to do each little step. I guarantee it's going to help you a lot. Okay? From here, we need to list in the hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. Let's go ahead and take care of hypotenuse because it never changes, always the same. If you remember, your hypotenuse is always the side that is across from your 90-degree angle. Okay, list it there. I'm going to just use a H for hypotenuse. Okay, what is your opposite side? If you're standing here at the green dot, your opposite is going to be the side that is across from the angle that does not touch it. It's all the way across, opposite that angle. Okay, well, that leaves the adjacent one to be this other side that we don't have labeled. Okay, if you forget what adjacent means, if you can get the hypotenuse and the opposite on there, then you can just put the other one right there, your A, on your other side you haven't used. Okay. If you will remember, adjacent, that word means right beside or beside of. So your adjacent side is the side that's right beside where you're standing, but it's not the hypotenuse. Okay, so now take a look at this setup. What you want to do from here, if you weren't here yesterday, this is an excellent review. Which one of these sides are we not using? The opposite, look at it. Does it have anything written on there, like here's an X, here's a 12? Does it give you any information about this opposite side? No. So we do not need to use opposite side on this because we don't know anything about it. We know 12 is a hypotenuse. We know we want to find the adjacent. So those are the two pieces we're working with. After you see which two pieces you're working with, adjacent, hypotenuse, we need to go back and remember your SOHCAHTOA steps and information from yesterday. Okay, we've got to know which one to use. Are we going to use sine? Are you going to use cosine? Or are we going to use tangent? Okay, now, remember SOHCAHTOA. Remember the little way that I taught you how to remember it. If you have to think through that little statement, do it. Sine goes with, okay, remember some old hippie. Okay, there we go, O and H. Caught, another hippie, tripping, on acid. Yes, it's funny. We can remember it. Okay, so there it is. Say it to yourself as you write in the first letter of each word and you have it in front of you. Okay? Now, from this information, here's your puzzle pieces. Put it together. You got A, you got H here on this example. Which one of these trig functions uses A and H? Well, look right here. A and H, you see it? That means we are going to use the cosine function to set this up. Okay, so here we go. Let's do it. C stands for cosine. What always goes right beside your trig? Okay, now I should hear a chorus of all students saying the answer to this. I said it 3 or 4 times in class yesterday. If you didn't catch it, you need to commit it to memory. What always goes right beside your trig? That's right, your angle measure. Angle measure, whatever's right there on your angle is always going to be the thing that goes right beside your trig. Okay, always going to happen. Now, cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Very important that you put the adjacent on the top. Whatever's here on the adjacent side, x, is going to go in on the top. Hypotenuse always has to be on the bottom. So it doesn't matter what these things are. Always, though, put in whatever's on the adjacent side on the top. Always, whatever's on the hypotenuse goes on the bottom. You cannot switch adjacent hypotenuse. You can't put the h on top. Okay? So here's our setup. This is your answer for the bell ringer. And these are similar problems to what you saw on your homework last night. Okay? We are going to actually go to your homework. And on the back side of SGI 7.4, these problems were similar to your bell ringer problem here. Okay? Let's check your homework and let's do that together starting on the back side. Okay? As I set up the whiteboard here to write down your answers, please get out your SGI book on your desk. We are going to start on the back side first, just because this is fresh on our mind. These were like your bell ringer. Okay. Number 1, your setup for this one, you are using your tangent function because you are given your opposite and your adjacent. Degree measure always goes right beside your trig. Your opposite side is x. Your adjacent side is 32. Check it. If you have 32 over x, it is not correct. You got to make sure your opposite always stays on top. And this time that opposite side is x. Your adjacent side is 32. Okay. Number 5, this one uses your sine function because you're using opposite and hypotenuse. 40 degrees goes right beside your trig. Your opposite side is 16. Your hypotenuse is x. Now take a look at this. It is possible for x to end up on the bottom, and today we're going to see how to solve for that in this situation. But it's not a consistency about where x goes. Doesn't matter. It could be on top. It could be on bottom. That part does not matter. What does matter, such as this situation, you have to have your opposite over your hypotenuse for sine. This is the thing that has to stay the same. This is the consistency. Okay. Number 6, you are using cosine for this one because you have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. Your 64 is your angle measure that goes right beside your trig. Your opposite, excuse me, we don't need opposite, don't have opposite. Cosine, adjacent is 15 and your hypotenuse is x. Okay. So take a look at your answers, please check them. The only ones you had was 1, 5, and 6 on the back side. Please flip over to the front side with me. And number 1, I'm going to call out these answers. Now, I'm going to look at these. I don't have the key in front of me, so I'm going to go through this quick. If you disagree with one of my answers, please talk to your teammates about it after the video finishes. And if I made a mistake, let me know about it tomorrow. Number 1, your answer is 30 over 34. Number 2, your answer is 16 over 30. Number 3, your answer is 16 over 34. Number 4, your answer is 30 over 34. Number 5, your answer is 16 over 20. Number 6, your answer is 12 over 16. Number 7, your answer is 16 over 20. And number 8, your answer is 12 over 20. Okay? If you have any questions on those, please ask your teammates real quick before we take the quiz. But I don't think anybody should have a whole large number of questions unless you were absent. If that's the case, we can talk about it when I get back and when you see me again. Okay? So please take everything off your desk, clear it off. You cannot use any notes on this quiz. So erase them, put it away. All desks should be clear. The only thing you need for this is a pencil, and I am going to hand out a sheet that you can write your answers on. So you just need a pencil. Please make it happen.